Welcome to the Cyber Health Podcast. I'm Stephen Prano, your host. We're excited for this episode. We're going to be talking about quantum technology. Quick disclaimer, we are not experts in the field. We are novice. We are learning, and it's a technology that constantly is evolving. Please help me welcome to the podcast John Riley III. He's a United States Marine veteran, and he is a co-founder of Impactifi. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Thanks, Stephen. It's great to be back again.
Nice to see you. So tell me about Impactifi.
Sure. We focus on internationalization for organizations that want to expand in the U.S. or abroad. And what we mean by that is if you're a company that is established, has successful in another country, and you want to come to, say, Florida, right? It's understanding how to navigate this ecosystem. We leverage our expertise and also relationships to help them grow, but we also help them with funding either through grants, multilateral funding, or an investor network that we have. And the third part that we have as a third pillar is emerging technologies. A lot of these organizations have emerging tech, but we validate whether that tech's a fit now for the U.S., and also what other emerging tech could be aligned with it, and then strategically try to align it with other partners we have or opportunities that their tech could be a good fit for. But we work with companies that want to go abroad, so say to Latin America, over to Europe or the UAE, figure out a way to get over there because we have relationships there as well.
Wow, that's exciting. It's an exciting thing. So you really specialize on a global stance, the company.
That's what we focus on, is really the internationalization part, is that because we figure that's the hardest thing for a lot of organizations. And for those that really want to expand in different markets, it's not the easiest thing to do. I always tell people it's like going to high school, right? And you're the new person. Right. You're a big shot in your old school, but you get to the new school and like, who's going to show me around? Right. So we work with people on showing them around of, don't go over there, go over here. Stay here or work with these people and not with those people. So it's kind of that same concept.
Right. Well, it's exciting stuff. Well, anything we can do to help you along the way. Full disclosure, I met John a year ago. He has always been a stand-up guy. He has been open to help me and guide me through my path in technology. And we do appreciate you spending some time today and sharing not only what you do at Impactifi, but of course the topic today is quantum technology.
No, not a problem.
So let's get into it. So what initially sparked your interest about quantum technology?
It's funny you say that, right? Because a year ago when I threw it out there, it was just kind of like on my radar, and because I was heavy in blockchain and AI was becoming really big at that time. And I think as we started Impactifi about a year ago, one of the people we were aligning with was talking about quantum, and even myself was like, we got another 20, 35 years, 40 years.
Right.
And then as soon as I tipped my toe, I call it, in the pool and started doing basic research, my eyes were open like, wow, this is moving way faster than I thought. There's a lot more people globally doing things with quantum in the cybersecurity space in other regions. And I started seeing, okay, well, maybe it is moving faster. I better start paying more attention. So we talked about, taking a course on Linux at Quantum for Executives. And once I did that, really getting a foundation of course, what quantum is, where it fits, why it's important, but the value it's going to add, that's where I was like, okay, I really need to start preparing myself, learning about this. And then how do I start sharing kind of that insider information with people that aren't aware of it? Because even though we're very focused on AI, right? You hear AI and everything we do. And AI is not going away, and it's very important that we are focused on it. But the thing is, quantum's almost moving faster than AI did, right? When everybody was hit with ChatGPT, we're like, oh, what is this? And it was scary. And then all businesses like, what do we do? How do we get in the company? Now, quantum's the same thing, right? But it's coming up so fast out of the radar that people aren't aware of it, that those that are aware of it are preparing early. Where a lot of times you look at emerging tech and it's like, oh, I'll wait till somebody else does it. Well, the companies that really know about it are saying, no, we want to be early adopters because we know it is such a learning curve when it comes to quantum that we need to be very prepared this time, unlike with AI.
Right. No, absolutely. And it's funny you say that. Yeah, I see that. I see that also in healthcare. As you know, and we talked about this, how IBM teamed up with Cleveland Clinic to establish the first quantum in the healthcare system. And they have a 10-year agreement partnership, which is pretty exciting for the healthcare aspect, how they're going to adopt it early. Like you said, one of the early adopters, and they're not waiting to see. They want to be one of the pioneers and one of the leaders in quantum in healthcare, which is very exciting to me.
Well, and that's an example right there of ones that have educated themselves enough, right? But also, I mean, you kind of look at what the experts are saying in the industry, which is, Bill Gates about a couple of weeks ago said quantum is 3 to 5 years away, not 15 to 30. And the same thing with Google. Google came out a week later and pretty much said the same thing. Now, they kind of did this on the heels of Invida CEO at CES this year saying quantum was 15 to 30 years away, where a lot of the people that are in this quantum space really threw up, their hands like, hey, there's a lot of people already doing things with quantum now. So that's not a statement that's true, but Bill Gates and also Google validating, yeah, it's really 3 to 5 years away. So you should be preparing for it now.
Right. No, absolutely. And we also mentioned too about the investment part of it. And I did a little bit of research to prepare for this interview. And it seems to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the last time I looked, China was the leader so far in investing into this technology in the billions,
Yes.
hundreds of billions.
Yes.
Right.
And they just started recently, 2 weeks ago, I think it's a $130 billion fund that's focused on quantum and AI for companies. So that's showing you the investment on a global level. Certain countries are saying, we want to be the leaders in this space. And to do that, we need to put all of our investment in this area. And that's the scary thing, right? The ones that are the first ones that are really setting the standards are the ones that are going to lead it. And I think the U.S. and some other regions are starting to realize that. You kind of see this fund that just came out for $500 billion for AI from the U.S. side. But now there's a push to make that also on the quantum side as well. Because organizations and government officials are starting to see globally, we're losing that space and that gap's beating up, and China's really trying to invest in that area.
Because China sees the benefit in the technology of being first.
Yes.
And we can argue, and not argue, but we can also bring up, for example, Invida and Deepseek, right?
Exactly.
So how they let Invida have the fun for a little bit, and they're like, okay, guys, ready? Now we're going to drop ours on the market.
Yeah.
And that was just a bombshell,
That caught a lot of people off guard, but that's showing you when it comes to emerging tech and this emerging tech spaces, it moves that fast, and every week there's something new. Right. So for us that live in this world and in the space with emerging technologies, at times we feel like, oh, I don't learn enough. We have to realize that the average person that's not focused on it like we are doesn't realize how fast it's moving until it's something brought to their foresight of, oh, what happened? Who's doing what? There's a difference. I remember the same thing with blockchain when it came out. It was like, what is this? It's disruptive. Well, how do we understand this? And then it went through a hype cycle and then AI and stuff like that. But you're starting to see this convergence, right? When we call convergence of technologies of these are all blending together, blockchain, AI, and now quantum is kind of that X factor to those two other emerging techs that have come along that are on everybody's radar. And I think we're going to see more conversations around how do you embed this in other technology? Because I think my belief is quantum will be that foundation that other technologies will be built on moving forward.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I've watched other videos and articles about it, and they say the adoption and adding this to your tech stack. If you have a company that you don't have this in your tech stack, along with AI and blockchain, of course, to strengthen whether it's cybersecurity or just your overall function day to day, it is going to be a differentiator for sure in the future. And I guess the question I would have is, on the flip side of that, because there's always the yin and yang. Some people argue and say, well, there's just a lot of hype. There's still not a lot of data yet before it, with the hesitation of the people that are not interested in being the first adopters. How would you navigate that?
I mean, I think that's I always say it's the basic thing with emerging technologies is educate yourself, right? Do your own research. And even when we talk to people, I always tell them, don't believe what I'm saying. Go look it up. Validate what I'm telling you is true. If I'm telling you that China's put $138 billion into investing in a fund for growing companies, look at that, right? Those are things that validate, okay, these things are happening. Or here are examples of, Cleveland Clinic of going, why they've been doing this, really? Look it up. We're putting things out there for a reason of, here are the nuggets to make you aware of the advancements in these areas. And if we can do that, that helps people, okay, I should maybe be thinking about this more often, especially depending if it's in healthcare or other regions where you're seeing either competitors or other countries have a strong focus on that. And I tell people if they're focused on it, that means they've already done their research. That's the biggest thing. They're not just doing it because a lot of people like now, AI, I want AI. And we're going, what do you need AI for? AI is great, but it's not a fit for everything. Quantum is going to be the same thing. It's a good fit, but it won't be for everything. So understanding that going forward of where is the best place for it to fit and where it won't fit.
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier about education, right? Don't just take our word for it, education. So can you talk a little bit about the aspect of kind of joining forces with education for quantum?
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. And maybe we can kind of give them an example of a high level of what quantum is, right?
Sure.
So when you look at, the standard computers, the bits. It's computers normally just a 1 or a 0, right? Almost like on the screen right there on your logo. Well, quantum has this kind of, this superstition where they can do 1s and 0s at the same time, multiplying the speed of how it can do the calculations compared to anything else out there. Recently, there was, an algorithm that came out that it would have took something like 100 high-performance computers a millennia to do. And a quantum computer wound up doing it in seconds, right? So when I explain to people, I go, in a simple way, what's quantum? You explain it to a 5-year-old. Hey, you're with your friends and you're doing this big, large maze, and there's probably 1,000 ways to get out of it. A regular computer, you have to go to each and every section to figure it out. Think about going in there with every friend you have, and each one takes one of the paths. That's quantum computer. You figure it out that much faster. So really understanding you have this ability now to figure out things much faster speeds up a process, but also think about your business model and how you go to market with something. You can really do an idea and go, all right, I need an answer now. You can get that answer now with quantum. You'll be able to do these different things that your go-to-market strategy will change. And I think that's where a lot of companies are starting to invest now and understand how is this going to change the market, right? When I looked at, I look at emerging tech and I look back to blockchain. Blockchain was kind of that early disruptor of how people started thinking, this is different. This just changed the way we look at doing business holistically. The first time you can do peer-to-peer transactions ever before. Like, hey, I don't need to have a bank or a third party, right? I have trust as you and I, Stephen, can use this app and this platform, and you can send me money, I can send you money, and we don't have to go through a third-person intermediary, right? Now there was trust. That's what blockchain brought, but it disrupted a lot of things. It was changing a business culture. Now you bring AI into the mix. That's a whole other disruption. Now you're adding quantum. Now quantum's going to be the same thing of how do you combine all three of these in a way, right? One, that you understand what the value is of all three, and then going, where does this fit for our organization? And I think that part of the education is the hugest thing. And usually, and I've always said this before, is it starts at the C level. If the C level can understand it easily and it's not coming through the IT, that's where the value is. And it's the education of how do you teach the executive teams in a way that's not technical, but shows the value add, shows what's been going on, and then getting to understand, okay, hey, this is not changing. Matter of fact, it's going to come so fast and hard, it will disrupt your organization faster than you think if you're not prepared for it this time. A lot of them weren't prepared for blockchain. They got wrapped up in the hype. AI was the same thing. They're still wrapping their heads around where does it fit. You see all the podcasts, webcasts, even the conferences talking about, hey, where's AI for this? And, it's generative AI, and now genetic AI. It's a lot, right? AI chatbots. Okay, CEO's like, well, do I need all that? Do I need everything? Quantum's going to be different. Like, how do you prepare them early enough where they're not scared by it, but feel comfortable going, okay, now I have a high level understanding of this is how it fits for me. So we took the course, right, of Linux. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about when did you start learning about quantum? And they were like, K through 12. Like, that's crazy to think about. But that's the thing of that K through 12 era that's coming through. Those are the ones that quantum's going to be a part of their lives more than ours is right now. They'll be living in that space like it was always there, kind of like with AI, right? So understanding the basic education of not just rushing in for the sake of rushing in, it's more in the lines of how do we get educated on it well enough where we're comfortable early? Because as it advances, and you saw who we are, we're going in the rabbit hole, and every day we're both like, what just happened? Right. Really, that's happened? Like, who's doing what? And this is just now. It's not even a year from now or 2 years from now. Right. It's going to be funny when we talk, probably in December, and we're both going to go, whoa, well, that wasn't even on the radar 8-9 months ago. But this is where just highly preparing yourself from the education side, I think, is where we can provide support to people, kind of like in a podcast like this, or just the basic conversations of, here it is. Like when we shared information, it was like, hey, Stephen, check this out. What do you think about this? And that kind of sparked your interest. Like, yeah, wow, I didn't know about that. And I was the same way when I started getting into it.
No, absolutely. John, sent me some emails with some articles, and I started doing a deep dive. And let me tell you, and I'm humbly saying this, I was overwhelmed with the third or fourth page of understanding about quantum computing, like you said, with superpositions, entanglements. I mean, the list goes on and on of all these different fancy words and acronyms. But the main part of the basic of it is that it is the future. It's happening now. So parents that perhaps are watching this, if you wonder where to kind of guide your child, if they're interested in technology, tell them quantum. And perhaps even maybe go to your schools and say, hey, we need some quantum curriculum in this school.
We're talking about cybersecurity as well, right? Mm-hmm. So you look at cybersecurity, the big push now is post-quantum cryptography, P.Q.C, right? And because of that, NIST and also MITRE are pushing out this post-quantum cryptography, the initiative of start preparing now, right? Start getting your systems in line with these standards that should be in play even way before quantum's even here. And to kind of add fuel to that is China came out recently with their own standards that were superseding what the U.S. put out there. So they're even trying to get under the lace of, here should be the standards of post-quantum cryptography moving forward. So you see this race of people understanding, wow, it is moving faster than others. And the funny thing is I've talked to people from different kind of quantum companies, one's Quantinuum, and they were kind of even sharing like, hey, we're moving faster in our roadmap that we have out there because things are advancing faster with quantum. And that's great to hear, but it's also scary, right? I mean, we're going to say, hey, we have this roadmap, and people are like, oh, we're behind in our roadmap. For people to say almost we're a year ahead because it's moving faster than we thought, that's an eye-opening, right? That's showing you where this technology is going. And from a cybersecurity standpoint, right, you start to see, if it's not on our radar now, it should be. And how do you start getting more of that awareness out there? On the cybersecurity space, it's getting hammered left and right, even just with AI alone, right? From the deep fakes that are going out there in, you know, the spamware, not the spamware, but the ransomware threats. And it's done scarily, but it's also helping, right? AI is helping stop those attacks. So you see the good and the bad on both sides. Now you're going to add quantum in there. In the case in point, we talked about this on the breach side. So I believe it was back in October, some Chinese scientists claimed they broke a military encryption with a quantum platform. Now, that was the first time we've ever heard someone either try to validate that they tried to break an encryption with quantum. Now, it turned out that they were wrong and they didn't do it. They didn't get that close to it. But you have to understand that real threat actors will not acknowledge that they've found out how to break an encryption with quantum. So that should be the scary thing, right? If they're trying to say, we're trying it already, right? This is where the kind of the term comes up, you know, the harvesting the data now to encrypt later is coming up for quantum. Like these threat actors are collecting all this data and secret stuff like, all right, well, wait till quantum is around because we know once it does, we can crack all this data that we're trying to break into. That's why NIST and MITRE are trying to focus on post-quantum cryptography now so much that they know people are collecting data waiting for quantum to happen. And now that it's moving faster, they're seeing it, okay, we're 5 years away, maybe 10 years away. You know, that's literally a blink of an eye when you think about emerging tech. 5-10 years is nothing. Right. So if they can say, I'll hold on this for 10 years, that's not a problem because I know this quantum platform is coming out there that I will be able to crack this and I won't have to tell anybody that I did it. So we're in this space where the education, even from a high level standpoint, and even in cybersecurity, because I've talked to cybersecurity experts that post-quantum cryptography is not even on their radar because they're still battling, AIs right in front of their face going, all right, I need to deal with this. But now you're going to tell me I have to deal with this as well? Like I have to think about this. How do you do that, right? It's already overwhelming as it is.
And like you said, I guess the first step is awareness, education, and then especially like you said on the C-level, executive level, you want to make them realize that this is an ongoing problem and these threat actors can harvest your data and wait till the post-quantum comes out and decrypt all this information and then hold it ransom against you. So like myself, I'm in the healthcare industry. It is a big issue and it's a big concern. And one of the strong reasons for me to host this particular episode was to feed this information out to my network of people that are in healthcare, whether you're a private practitioner or an executive, and that you're perhaps responsible for this data. This is something you really need to take into consideration and perhaps invest your own time and money to research and how the value of quantum is going to save you or your company.
And I think, you're bringing up something even on the healthcare side with the value of quantum, with drug discovery and stuff like that. That's where quantum can come into play is a value add of understanding, what Cleveland Clinic does and others. I think you even shared with me that the UK is trying to push quantum by 2030. Right, for healthcare. And that's that's showing you where these countries are thinking already strategically. They're like 2030, right? We want to make sure quantum is embedded in our healthcare system, right? That's taking a vision, right? 30 years, but it's planning way ahead because they know that's what needs to happen. I mean, there are so many different quantum platforms out there that are now almost commercial ready, right? So what do? You start working with these organizations of how do we start preparing our systems and our algorithms and our applications designed to handle this stuff in our systems. Like, where do we need to embed it and where we don't need to embed it, right? Because like everything else, and like even with AI, it's like, oh, AI for everything. You're like, no, AI is not for everything. Understanding and working with people of, hey, where should we leverage it and where shouldn't we leverage it? Right. Because in 30 years, quantum is going to be totally different from what we're seeing just right now. So as it speeds up, as all the qubits out there, you're going to start understanding, going, okay, I'm glad I started understanding what's going on now, because it's going to be worse than a fire hose in 10 years of trying to figure out quantum. Right. If you're not just understanding the basics of it now, it's throwing it at you so fast where it's like, I can't handle this, and you start to become afraid of it. For an executive, it's like, this is too much. Somebody else needs to handle this, right? Tell me what I need to know. Right. So if you're preparing an executive now to understand it in a way that's easy to digest, I think that's the important thing.
Definitely. So one thing that we mentioned about healthcare and quantum, as far as Cleveland Clinic with IBM, their partnership, one of the things that they spoke about was how the drug development and just finding different treatment is going to reduce drastically using quantum, whether it's the money involved or the amount of time by simulation. And they'll be able to see these drugs. Instead of having 100 different individuals test them through medications, they have a simulation program, and they can figure out a better way to either design a medication or a treatment. Come in and we have MRIs, we have all these different scannings with AI and technology, but inputting quantum with all of that, you're going to be able to not only quickly diagnose somebody, but also have them avoid testing that's not necessary, and really pinpoint and try to correct, their issue, whatever that could be. And lastly, with healthcare and quantum is going to be all that data and information that they'll be able to process in ways that we can't even fathom. So it's pretty interesting, exciting, and they keep developing, and they keep finding new ways to use it, and not just healthcare. Obviously, there's other industries that are making a huge impact.
Communication, finance. I mean, all these areas, manufacturing, supply chain. It runs the gamut, right? It's going to have a fit in almost all the verticals that are out there, and understanding that is the biggest thing, the starting point. The use cases of where does it fit the best, who's doing what with it now, right? From BMW to Clinic and all these organizations going, okay, how do we leverage this, right? Where's the best fit for us? Right. And doing it early enough, allowing them to adopt to it, right? As it progresses, right? This is kind of this whole digital transformation journey, but this one is different, right? Because you really need to prepare for this one, and the communication that's going to need to happen for organizations in a company is going to be even more than ever before with this technology of, why are we using this? Here's where it's fitting. Here's our value add with it, right? And just like in healthcare, going, wow, just think, and we talked about something on the phone, just think we had quantum during COVID, right? How fast they would have found the vaccinations, right? Because like you said, hundreds of people going through and testing. If quantum was in place, it could have been like, oh, here's the mix, done, get out the door, right? So it's going to speed that up exponentially, going, wow, we can find out vaccinations to certain illnesses twice as fast and get it out the door twice as fast. Right. There's the value add. I mean, the life savings around it. Right. So as you start to move forward with it, this is where preparing early, understanding it, basic education comes into play, but also being willing to be open to it, right? Because like I said, when I heard quantum, I was like, oh, okay, whatever, right? And it's hard. And I threw it out you when we were talking. You're like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I did a couple of posts on LinkedIn. You're like, oh, okay. And I was like, Steven, this is coming. And it's like we talked about last year. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you peel it back and you're like, okay, this is really moving. This is great. Right. So for me, it's always understanding on an international level, because one, Impactifi is international. Sure. But even with emerging tech, I've always wanted to focus on international of, what are you doing in Chile, right? What are you doing over in Japan? What are you doing over in Dubai, right? What are you doing over in Africa? What are you doing over in Italy? And getting perspectives of how they're seeing the value in it. That's a great point, because then I'm understanding and building relationships with people in that area that I can reach out to validate if what I'm hearing is true, right? Because there's going to be a lot of hype. There's going to be a lot of things going on. And when it really starts to hit, there will be a quantum hype cycle again. But the thing is great that the UN labeled 2025 as the year of quantum. Right? If you look it up, the UN designated it this year of this is the year that quantum is on the map with tangible results that people can start looking at leveraging. And that's the important part, right? They didn't say this the years before. I know people that have been in quantum space since like 2011, 2012, right? It wasn't even on my roadmap then. That's when I was in 2017. I was on blockchain. But organizations like, hey, we've been working on this since then. Now, finally, the hardware and technology is getting to the point where we can start implementing our ideas around quantum that we've been working on for the past 10 to 15 years. Right? There's the great thing about it. I was saying, wow, these people, it's not just an overnight success. It's been in play for a while. Quantum theories have been away, hundreds, not hundreds of years, but, decades. And now these ideas, these concepts are now coming to fruition. That's the scary thing, right? Because like, oh, it's actually happening.
Right.
Okay. How do I understand it? And the always way to get rid of something you're afraid of is to learn about it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like you said, they've been working this for decades with the quantum and the software part. I did read how one concern is the technology aspect, the hardware aspect of it, and making those all meet and work together is also a challenge that they're constantly, working towards. So it is exciting. It's exciting to see what's going to happen. Like you said, it's not going to be 10 years from now. I even read some articles where people were saying in 3 years from now, it's going to be implemented on a larger scale, and more industries will adopt it because they have to, And
there's a blockchain platform out there called D-Wave that's been doing things in quantum and also working with companies that are leveraging their quantum platform. So that's real live quantum applications being used by organizations through this company D-Wave. So that basic research, when you start looking at, okay, what platforms are out there that actually have live customers, that's one of them. So I like that part because it allows me to point to saying, hey, who's doing what? You know what? Look at this platform over here. They're doing stuff with organizations globally, right? Look at their track record, right? Look at their history. This is the valuable thing. The hardware and everything else is still catching up, but they have it at a point where they can still leverage it now with the hardware and stuff they have. And they know as it goes further on, it's going to get better and better and faster and faster. And they're way ahead of the curve, right? So for me, when I look at that, there's the value add of it's not far away. Companies are already doing things. And then sharing that information going, how do I become better at understanding it that I can share? Because like everything else, there won't be one quantum platform to rule them all. Right. Each one will have its use case. Same thing like blockchain, right? And same thing like AI. There's always different this and that. There won't be one to rule them all, but understanding which one of these platforms plays best for you is the important thing, and depending on what region you're in.
So we've talked about a lot of different areas and uses with quantum technology, but one thing that I think is important too is the workforce in quantum and the lack of skills, for lack of a better word. So what's an approach, or how can we work on that?
I think that's a good point, right? There's already an emerging skills gap when it comes to technology, from cybersecurity to AI, and they're saying that gap is growing, right, over the next 5 years, that this skill set of people that they can hire that can do these jobs is becoming wider because the education is not happening fast enough. And the challenges with schools, right, they're held to these standards when it comes to curriculum of getting approval and signing off on it. That takes a long time. With emerging tech, it moves so fast that you can't wait for curriculum. So this is why you're seeing a lot of organizations take people that have certifications in these areas or real skill sets or hands-on skills. And that's going to be the important thing. So with workforce development, it's really, we're talking about, it's starting early. It's starting in the schools of training people, understanding and educating them, but getting them hands-on experience so they start learning about it now. We at Impactifi partner with a strategic partner on quantum education called Qureca out of Spain. And they've been in the education of quantum for the past 7 years globally. And really the way they've done it, they're really packaged in a way that making it easy for executives, easy for K through 12 education, easy for certifications, right, for technical people, and covering that gamut because they know you need to start preparing this workforce now, but you have to make it easy for them to get into learning what they're learning about it. With schools, it's usually a very strict curriculum of here it is, go by this chapter or whatever.
Right.
Emerging tech and quantum, it moves so fast of let's adjust this so you understand these concepts and where they can apply. And then when you're done, you can go get hired by someone because you have this understanding of it. Now, there are people that are in school now, whether in a lot of colleges offer quantum courses and classes and technical classes. But the biggest thing is understanding it from a standpoint of you're not going to need a PhD to be in the quantum workforce. You're going to need to understand how does it work, where does it fit, how can I be a part of it, where's my skill set play the best in it, and building that workforce early and not saying, hey, you need a 5-year or 6-year degree in quantum computing and education before we hire you. By that time is over, it's already too late.
Right.
Most of these kids are coming out of school.
Right.
Same thing with AI, right? You see the AI, these kids coming out and they have to take a certification class because what they learned was the foundation. But AI has moved so fast that what skills are they missing? Same with cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. And this is where we're seeing it, right? This convergence of you're not going to have one just disciplinary skill set of I'm an AI expert, I'm a cybersecurity expert, I'm a quantum expert. You're going to have a skill set of knowing all three now, right? You can have a foundation in cybersecurity, but you need to understand how's AI coming to play in it, how's blockchain coming to play with it, and how's quantum coming to play with that. And this is where employers are going to start looking for this as well of, hey, are you well-versed in all the emerging tech, right? Not just one. Can you understand where AI fits with these other emerging techs and where can it provide value to us? That's the biggest thing moving forward with workforce development is how do you teach this new workforce or reskilling the workforce of, hey, you're great, you've been AI for a long time. Let's get you up to speed on cybersecurity and blockchain. Let's get you up to speed now on quantum and all three and why they're important together. That's going to be the force moving forward of preparing the workforce early enough, but also having a focus on it for once, right? So I think that's always been the thing. I mean, I've worked for large organizations like Oracle and SAP, and I remember people buying $1 million software suites, right? And education was always left out, which was always funny, right? Because you're preparing your people or skilling them to adopt and use this technology. Well, it's the same thing, right? With emerging technology. It's people get wrapped up so in it going, okay, are my people even trained enough on this or prepared enough that if we were to implement this, can they use it? Can they adopt it? There's going to be the challenge. And it's always been that way so far with emerging tech of how do you educate the people enough, get them prepared and prepare that workforce that when they do come out saying, hey, I have this skill set in blockchain, AI, and quantum. Oh, great. Show me where it fits, right? Hey, I have a team over here. We're doing these things. Do you think this technology could solve some of these problems? There's going to be the huge value add. The ones that have the skill set that cross-pollinate all the emerging tech, that workforce coming forward will start to have to adopt that kind of a mindset.
Right, absolutely. And can you mention one more time for the listeners, the where they can get this training?
Yes, a company called Qureca. And yeah, you can also find them on our website, but also you can find them on, it's Querca.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Qureca. Okay. No, that is exciting, and definitely, I'm assuming from this interview, when people watch it, we do have a good subsect of college students that watch the podcast, and so I'm sure I will get messages about following up about getting training and the right training, right? Yeah. Because there is a lot of maybe not necessarily for quantum, but there is a lot of options for education and training out there today. Yeah. So it's good to know that there's a reputable one and one that has information that can really set them apart from other people, especially with the skills gap that we have currently, and it's going to continue to grow with these emerging technologies.
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about, when people ask me of how to get into technology, I always recommend going to conferences. Mm-hmm. And for me personally, in the last 5 years of my journey being in technology, I can say that what really got me motivated and the ball rolling for my interest was a conference. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about a conference coming up in a couple of weeks, Emerge Americas.
Sure. Yeah, Impactifi has been fortunate enough. We were asked to work with Emerge on their International Immersion Week, which means that we're working with organizations that are coming that want to get into the U.S., into Florida, and helping them with a program with industry leaders and executives that we meet with different topics on going, hey, here's how it is to work in government in Miami, in Broward, in Palm Beach County, in all of Florida, right? Here's some insight you should prepare yourself when it comes to whether it's now the new immigration laws and preparing your team. we've designed a program that allows them this easy access to these experts and also interacting with them, but also allowing them to build relationships with them. And that's the hugest thing, kind of like on the Impactifi side, is when eMERGE asks us, like, hey, we understand you guys work with these companies. Can you partner with us to really run this series for us before the conference starts? Because a lot of international companies, they don't want, the conference is usually only 2 days, but they come over here for the whole week. And during that week, this gives them an understanding and a value of meeting with industry leaders, experts, and executives in certain industry spaces like healthcare, supply chain, e-commerce, right, manufacturing. We have all these experts that have come together to share their insight with the attendees on, hey, here are the things you should be aware of in the U.S., in Florida, in different regions that you can take advantage of, and you also understand better before you come here. And that's kind of Impactifi, kind of our role is making these strategic alignments with these people, these key stakeholders, allowing them to meet these people from different regions, and then giving them an experience that normally they don't get to have at certain conferences, right? When they go to a conference, it's like, okay, I'm here for 3 days, that's it. But to give it very intimate kind of a placing where it's kind of select only, it's not 100, 200, 300, 500 people. It's really intimate, around 60, 70 people, and kind of getting in a room and allowing them to interact and make those personal connections, which is very much needed in any conference. And eMERGE, as we know, we'll get into in a second how big that is.
Right.
But this is the value add of helping these organizations and expand in that way.
Right. That's exciting, and I'm looking forward to be a fly on the wall and when that happens. But you like you mentioned there, it's all about network.
Yeah.
And meeting people, but more importantly, being able to connect people with the right people.
That's huge, and especially if you're in emerging tech. So you look at eMERGE, right? Mm-hmm. This conference now is one of the biggest in the state, and they've established it for over, I think, 11 years now.
Right.
And they're staple of bringing together emerging tech. And you've seen how it's grown over the years, from not just emerging tech and startups to emerging tech to internationalization, now to DoD and military section, and to a quantum section and AI section. That's showing you that eMERGE is really has their finger tapped into the lifeline of emerging technologies and knowing how do we share this with the world, right? Because it really is a global conference. Right. And how do we bring these people together and experts so people can connect, right, on a different level? So there's conferences everywhere around the world, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, but this one in Florida, eMERGE, really kind of is a staple. And you've seen how it's grown over the past 11 years of being that one to be at, to make those connections, meet innovative technologies, interact with the companies, meet people internationally, build relationships. And it's a great way, one, to bring the whole ecosystem together.
Right. No, absolutely. I was fortunate enough to be there last year for their 10th anniversary, the Medina family. Yep. It's an amazing conference. I've been to a few myself, different ones, but they stood out to me as not only just like you mentioned that they have their foot on the pedal, and they're connecting all these different sectors of technology, the emerging technologies, but just the whole ambiance of the conference is such a sleek. It's definitely a Miami vibe, but to me it creates an atmosphere of fostering change, development, innovation, and it's really a great conference for anyone out there who's not privy to be to one of these conferences. You should look it up and perhaps even attend one if you can. It definitely is life-changing. It was life-changing for me, and I'm excited to go this year as well.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, it has. And it's funny because I moved to Florida in 2015. Right, so I was very new to the state. I moved from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and I grew up in New York. I've been to Miami a couple of times, but moving down here, right, and being in the region, living here, and in navigating, right, filling out where do I go, and knowing what conferences to go to. I remember eMERGE was my first big one in here around 2019 when blockchain was getting big, and I was in that. Wow. I was like, okay, wow, this is a great conference, and I've been to a lot of different conferences. But they bring together like technology and these ideas and people and relationships. They were big time visionaries, right, when they did this 11 years ago. Because you look at Miami and South Florida, they wasn't looked at as an emerging tech space, right? Back then. Think about it. Not even remotely close. They had a vision way before blockchain was big, AI was big, all these other things. But to bring together, innovation in one spot. And now what it's done is grown into this very big conference type culture and experience, right? And I think you talked about it as well. You go there and it's like, whoa, it is a Miami vibe, but it's an experience that a lot of people, if you're not from the region, don't get to have.
Right.
And that's the exciting part about it. It's like, hey, I'm meeting people. I'm seeing executives and C-level suite people and movie stars and Pitbull and everybody else, right? But that's what it brings together is that kind of feeling and vibe that you feel like, hey, I'm included in this big event, right? And it feels personal, and that's the big thing of the deal with it. They make it really feel personal. I love that.
Yeah, it's personal. The energy, the vibe, it is a great time. And at some point, even me last year, I forgot that I was at a tech conference. I'm like, everyone's having a good time. I mean, it's not stuffy by any sense. It is really an atmosphere that really just promotes connections, amongst other things. So real quick, if somebody wants to find you and contact you.
Sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn. So it's John Riley III on LinkedIn. Also, you can find me through our website, impactifiglobal.com, or you can check us out at Emerge this year.
Great, yeah. So we'll hopefully anyone watching that's going on Emerge, we'll see you. If you see me, say hi. I'm always looking forward to meeting other people. And we do appreciate you guys watching this episode. I'm Stephen Perano, the host, and our goal here is just to inspire people with technology and healthcare. We hope we inspired you today. Thank you, my guest, John Riley. We'll see you on the next episode. Share, like, subscribe. Talk to you soon. Take care.